We'll tell you who's joining us in just a minute. Even as we do, remember who is by your side when things get the way they do, and that's I&M Bank. Remembering that you need that partner who will be with you no matter what. That will empower you, whether it is working on your business. And the promise is simple. At I&M Bank, we're on your side. Whether you're launching a new business, seeking financial guidance, or striving for personal growth, they're here to support and empower you every step of the way. The commitment extends to innovative solutions to impacting lives because at I&M Bank, your aspirations fuel our mission. Discover the power of on your side banking. Find out at any I&M branch close to you. I&M Bank, on your side. Not to be forgotten. Dr. Joseph Mahiri is the Deputy Governor of Migori County, and he's in the hot seat this morning. DG, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm good, and you?
Fine, thank you.
Okay.
Karibu sana. Been in Nairobi or just made your way through this morning?
No, I've been in Nairobi since last week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to have you here.
Thank you very much.
This is the Situation Room. You're in the hot seat of the Situation Room this morning. And even as we welcome you, Mark is going to tell you about a country where we are in this week, where we've gleaned some proverbs. We would like to hear your interpretation of the proverb that he's going to share this morning. Fair enough?
Yeah.
All right.
So the area where we are in is called the Bazaruto Archipelago, which nears a city of Vilankulo, somewhere in the general south of Africa. Do you have any idea where? Because I also didn't. So we are together. This is in Mozambique.
Yeah.
They speak Portuguese. So there are 6 islands which I'm unable to pronounce. So we will skip that part and go straight to the proverb. By being grateful, a man makes himself deserving of yet another kindness. By being grateful, a man makes himself deserving of yet another kindness. What is your interpretation?
I think it means when you are grateful to someone, you expect the kindness from him or from other people. It's like doing good, expect to get good. Yeah.
Yeah, you do good, you get it. Yeah.
Do well, and it shall be well.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of conversations around the buzz right now. Obviously, we are in budget season, and the Finance Bill 2025 is being discussed around very many circles. We're coming off a place where there's never been a more discussed finance bill than there was in 2024. And off of the back of that comes around in 2025, DG. But now we're looking at it from the perspective of deputy governors and why they, in this new budget, are pushing for more allocation. And so we want to get the rationale behind that push as we enter into this conversation. Deputy governors have a council, have a forum, and of course is led. And the talks about increased allocation to the counties has been suggested over the last couple of weeks. And that has been rejected also over the last couple of weeks in terms of the monies that would then be spent in the new fiscal year. And there have been many conversations around whether NGCDF should now be scrapped totally from the hands of members of parliament and should go to the counties. All of those conversations happening at the same time. But let's start off with this. What is the rationale for increased allocation to the counties in this new budget?
The issue of increased budget didn't start in this financial year. You remember, even from the last financial year, there was a serious discussion on the counties needing the increased budget on the 2024-2025 budget. But it ended up the national government and the parliament that didn't increase that budget. And the same thing is also in this financial year again. The counties, the Senate is pushing for increased budget. This is a constitutional thing, which expect the national government to give the 15% of its budget to the county government. It's not that the county government need money for their own use, but it's for the functions that have been transferred to the county government. Because you can't give a functions that necessary budget to it. And that's why the governors, the deputy governors, the Senate want that money to be increased. In fact, we if it was fair, we were supposed to get over 15%, maybe 20%, because the functions, if we really need to implement the functions that are at the county government, that money cannot be enough. It's only that we are doing part of it and the county national government is doing part of it, which is not full transfer of functions. Yeah.
Where does this money go? And when we're talking about increase of allocation, to what sectors are we talking about? We know that at the county level, the big ticket item is recurrent expenditure. That goes towards payments of salaries, etc., right? So this money that is being asked for as an increment, whether it has been over the last couple of years, where would that money be going to?
You know, there are key departments that have been transferred to the county government, like health. It's supposed to be fully transferred to the county government. Agriculture, water sector, and other services that are offered at the county level. In education, part of it, the ECD is transferred to the county government.
ECDs have been at the county for a while now. They didn't start last year.
Yeah, the things also have changed. The population, the number of children, the number who needs this ECD have increased. And then also the recurrent expenditure has also increased because the number of staffs and others have retired, and the transfer functions also require more staff to the county government, which leads to the increased recurrent expenditures. When you see, most of the counties started at zero in terms of development. Some of the counties never had even the headquarters, nothing at that. Some of the counties who are like in urban centers, like the city Kisumu, they inherited some properties from the national government. The rural counties like Migori, which never inherited even one building from the national government, it starts from the scratch. So that's the reason why we need more funds, especially for the infrastructure development. Most of the counties, they don't have even good hospitals.
Yes.
They need to improve on them. Some of the counties, they don't have water and sanitation structure systems.
Why?
But you know where we are coming from.
No, why do we not have such systems at the counties?
If you consider the funds that are taken to the county level for development, let's just take it is 2 billion. And if you want to do a water system, like for example in Migori on an urban center, you need huge a lot of money, like over 600 million to do that. In fact, for Migori, I saw the proposal, it's over 2 billion. You need those 2 billion to do as water and sanitation infrastructure for the people of Migori. But that's not enough even for the total budget of development in the county.
This is interesting that you say this, because the control of budget on the 7th of May, which is 12 days ago, she said that according to the law, which we know, 30% of counties' budgets must be allocated to development. However, the devolved units have been breaching the requirement over the years, and she's saying that this trend is now worrying. Why does she say that? County projects in health, one, you talked about water and sanitation. Education, you talked about ECDs. Roads, you talk about some roads still being Maram roads. She says they face high risk of stalling after the devolved units failed to spend 72 billion on development budget over the 6 months to December 2024. That money was not spent, and it was there. Not that was hoping for it to come. The money was there, but it was not spent on development. It was spent on something else. This is from her report. county governments spent 33.6 billion shillings, which is just 1/3 of the 105.7 billion that was required to be spent on development according to the latest control of budget report. For the fiscal year 2024 July to 2025 June, the counties have a development budget of 211.5 billion shillings. So this money is supposed to be ring-fenced for development. According to the law, it's not supposed to be used for anything else aside. But it's not being used. Even the one that is available, counties are not using it. And now we are saying, give us some more. But according to not me, the COB, the one that is available is not being used. So what rationale then do we have for saying there should be a further incremental allocation?
I may not speak for the whole counties, but I may speak for the counties that I'm aware of, especially from my county. The issue of money not being spent, some of it is not real, it's not the truth. Because you will find that there are so many times that the treasury says it has released money to the counties. We will stay for 2 months without seeing that money in the account. So when they say that money was never spent, maybe there was a delay in payment of the pending bills or the work done, or the procurement procedures, which are very detailed. Maybe those counties, they never implemented that. So it's not that the money is more until it remains. That's not the truth.
No.
Yeah.
What we're saying is that if there's 100 shillings at the county, 30 shillings is supposed to be kept for development. That's according to the law.
Yeah.
From what the COB is saying, is that in that 30 shillings, that she can see some money at the counties and it has not gone towards development. That's what she's saying. Because it's already been granted, like you say, DG, that all this other money has gone towards salaries and all these recurrent expenditure, paying for ECD, paying workers, etc. But this 30 that's supposed to take care of the thing that you talk about, building an extra classroom here or there, working on this road, setting up the sanitation system here and there, that money, she can still see it there. It has not gone... it has not gone towards that particular spend. And the question is why?
Maybe she could have spent that. What was the source of that money? Is either the money which was allocated or budgeted and it was available for expenditure. And you'll find most of the things that you'll see on the budget is what not is to be spent or to be implemented. Some of the budget, maybe they were budgeted depending on the on-source revenues, which some of the counties never realized to what they had planned to realize. Some of the equitable share, we say that we are expecting this money, the financial year ends without getting all that amount.
But counties have every 5 years an entire forum where they sit and they plan how they're going to spend their money, right? Yeah. So at the beginning of the 5-year term that this is what we want to do, and this is the money that will be allocated. For me, the question is quite simple here, that if this was the plan, the CIDPs are for counties. Yeah. If we know that this is the plan, we know how much this is going to cost. But at the end of 1 year, which is what they're required to do between the Auditor General and the Control of Budget, they're required to say, this is the audited accounts. But we don't see this thing, which was in the CIDPs, living out in terms of what 30% was supposed to be spent on development. It is not happening. And that goes to the question is now when we say, give us more money for development, what has happened to the money that has been spent previously?
You see, that's why I was saying, when we say it is 30% of the budget must go to the development, some of the counties have the wage bill, which was over 40% of their budget, which is not supposed to be the law. But we find that most of the counties prefer paying their workers with the high wage bill that they are inherited from the national government and the previous governments at the expense of the development. And by the way, most of the time you may plan and the project that you want to do. At the end of the financial year, you may find that that money have not been paid. It's on the issue of pending bill, or it remains because the project were incomplete, because some of the projects are not complete within the one financial year. They are carried forward. And at the end of it, maybe the county didn't pay, and that's the money may be lying. And also, I'm not speaking for all the counties or the governors, but we'll find some of the, maybe there's some loophole somewhere where some of the governors or counties are not implementing their budget well how it's supposed to be. But in the real sense, if you budget and see the amount of money given to the counties, if the counties prioritize and use that money appropriately, that money is not enough to cater for the needs or the services to the people within the counties.
Is
Yeah.
the problem compounded beyond what government is allocating? There's a matter you speak of called the pending bills. And I hear for many counties, those pending bills are more than the entire budget sometimes. Is there, at the back of all this, the weight of previous governments, and I talk both national and county, and this weight transferred into pending bills, inappropriate hiring of staff in terms of an overstaffed county government, and then really that the fact that this country is in a proper dilemma, not just about allocation, but in a proper dilemma that our county governments are insolvent and need much more radical support than 15-20% increase on the allocated amount.
You see that the government doesn't end with the exit one of the leaders. When you finish your term, you leave the government going on.
Yes.
You can't say, but for example, you come and get the staff who are employed on a permanent basis. You can't put them off. And then also the people who did the work, and maybe they were never paid on time, or they didn't complete their project within their time, it end up carrying forward their payments, and it is inherited to the new government. And we can't say that we will not carry the cross of the previous government. It's the responsibility of the current government to take care of the messes or the goods which were done with the previous government. But now, when we are taking care, it compromises the development for the current leaders. Because if you carry, for example, the pending bill, like in Migori, is high. We have tried to pay it, but we still have a lot of money on pending bills. But in the real sense, we have to carry it on. And the control budget now is one of the things that you must budget for the pending bill or spend on pending bill before spending on the current development.
Yeah, Wanadiji, I totally agree.
Yeah.
My question was not that you have a responsibility. My question is, as a nation, do we need to have a discussion beyond just the budgets for counties and beyond the pending bills? Because in my view, many of the county governments, even if you give them 10 years, they will become insolvent before finishing the pending bills. I think we have a bigger problem than the budget itself, than the development, than absorbing development money. I think that our counties and the county governments as currently constituted, in terms of their financial solvency, we need to have a bigger conversation as a country, because increasing the budget is not necessarily going to address the problems that these institutions have.
Yeah, for sure, we really need to have that serious discussions. You see what is really contributing to this. In the budget cycle, we budget that we want to do roads ABC and set under the budget for this. But by the end of this budget cycle, maybe a quarter of the work has been done, and that's the money that has been paid. And that whole budget, it's not transferred to the next financial year. You see, you are carrying a baggage which is not budgeted for in the previous or the coming years. So we really need to agree or to have a discussion. How do we handle this big project so that we don't keep on carrying the baggage to the next years and all that? How is this money can be set aside? If it is 200 million to complete a project, how is that money taken care of? It's not that it's left there to be looked for the next financial year. It's a big issue because some counties have a bending bill more than even their equitable share.
Yeah.
So how are we doing? And yet, most of these bending bill are genuine. Either the Kenyan supplied goods or did the work, but they have never been paid. So we don't know where we are missing. Is it during the budget or the expenditures period where we can't really tie our expenditures to the budget? It's like when you say you have in your home, you have budget, you want to build something, and then you don't know next where will you get the money to complete. Maybe you want to go ask, but you need to be sure that I want to build this. Where will I get this money until the end? Rather than say, I need to do a construction of 200 million, I have 20 million. You are not sure where will you get this. And then, unfortunately, in the next budget, you don't remember to budget for this money, which is, or make it available. Also, budgeting is different from also making that money available for expenditure. Yeah.
Are county governments too tied in their hands in terms of finances? And is it time we revisit that our counties were built too small to succeed? No, because this is what I mean. You talk of a county that is unable to raise even an eighth of their resources needed.
Own source revenue.
They can't do it. You're talking about counties whose spending bills far outweigh the allocated revenue. You're talking about counties which cannot stand on their own to make decisions. In fact, we're at a point where many counties cannot even plan for development projects because the projects that are pending will consume all the money before anything is done.
We must stress or ask, where did we mess from? And then from there we can agree, where do we move from? In fact, there is no county which cannot manage to raise a good money from their own source of revenue, but it's how it is being raised. And that's why we find some of the counties that have digitized their revenue collection, they are doing well. Some which are doing their collection manually, they are collecting minimally. So either from the county assemblies or from the Senate, maybe they have a bill or some policies that all counties let them digitize on source revenue collections so that they can maximize their collections. Because some counties, for sure, that we don't have any source. And we depend only on equitable share, which is not enough.
Okay.
Bonadiji, as you're speaking, I go back to a conversation I had once with the governor. And if you look at the reality of what we have in the counties, when we talk about devolved corruption, for example, when governors talk about getting an increase in the budgets, the trickle-down effect to that mwananchi at the county level, they actually don't feel it. Because what we have seen, allocations of these budgets or increase of these allocations have been traps of misuse, have been channels of ghost projects, ghost workers, poor accountability. My question to you, even as I think we're going for a break, is even as you're pushing for more allocation, are you backing it by any audit and at your county level, because you can't speak over all the other counties, or even a performance review? Can you confidently tell, for example, the people in Migori, look, this is what we had in the last year's budget. This is what we did. This is our audit. This is our performance review that shows that actually we need more money. Do we have that at the county level?
Yes, thank you very much. And for sure, if I talk for Migori case, we have that audit and also the report from the county assembly, and we do have a good working relation with the county assembly, where they be able to assess and be able to give department by department. You budget for this, and this was able to be done. This was not, and why? We are very accountable to the assembly, which are the which is supposed to do oversight on behalf of the people of Migori, and we do follow up with the budget, how we budget and what did we budget to, and it was implemented. And if you go to the ground, you see, it's not a matter of allocation, but you can go and you can see it on the ground. And when we talk, for example, construction of ECDs, if we budget, for example, for the second year, we had budget for 140 ECD classrooms for across the county. At the end of the financial year, we can be able to say we have done the 140. We budget to do, like, for example, 40 water boreholes, one per county, per ward. Can we see all these water projects going on? Which I can confidently say is true. You can go and you can find it on the ground. So we can be able to say, Migori County, we need this amount for us to cover the entire population in water supply. We need this and this per financial year, and we can be able to account for it. The issue in Kenya is that the generalized issue about corruption. That if one leader is corrupt, we generalize that all governors, all deputy, or everybody is corrupt. But we have Kenyan leaders who are genuinely implementing or utilizing the limited resources that have been allocated for the betterment of the people of Kenya.
All right. We'll take a break and come back and continue with this, because then the thing is that if there is a push from across board, then is there also a push for accountability and transparency and the management of these resources across board as well? We'll come back and continue with that. Dr. Joseph Mahiri is the Deputy Governor of Migori County. We're having a conversation this hour about, if there's going to be more county allocation, is it going towards the right source? At the moment, if you're looking for value that stretches your shilling, let Naivas be your home of deals. At Naivas, we know shopping isn't just about ticking off a list, it's about the experience. And that's why your Kapu Kibonge is more than just a shopping basket. It's big, it's beautiful, and guess what? It never gets full. With unbeatable promotions, exclusive discounts, and everyday low prices, you just keep adding more and still spend less. So what you need to do, head on down to your nearest Naivas Kiloko. Fill your kikapu with value, variety, and the warmth of a true Kenyan shopping experience. Karibu Naivas, the home of deals.
Kenya thrives on agriculture, and it's very fruitful. From the highlands that we grow our coffee and tea, all the way to the resilient northeastern part with our livestock, and not forgetting the breadbasket in the Rift Valley.
If you're not able to meet an agronomist, you can even view channels whereby you can start from the bottom.
Maisha ya siku hizi ni kujituma. Hakuna haja kwenda kutafuta kazi, na kazi yenyewe iko hapa kwa mchanga.
At Farm Kenya, we celebrate those who make it happen. Farmers who innovate, adapt, and guess what? They're able to feed the nation. Together, we are growing nutrition.
Together, we are growing agriculture.
And together, we are growing Kenya.
Shiba, Utashiba, Fugo Calf Starter Pellets, Calf Grow Pencils, Heifer Grow, Dairy Milk Plus, and Maxi Milk Plus. product of Unga Farm Care.
Profite na ng'ombe wako.
Nina siri naye Yesu, yanifanya niwe jasiri. Kwa amani naye dhiki, yanifanya niwe jasiri. Yaniburudisha, nikirukaruka, Hosanna.
Dial *811 *803 hash to get this as your skiza tune. KTN ndio home.
I don't accept that.
Get ready for an unforgettable experience. At KTN, we've got it all. Hold tight, because the adrenaline rush is real. Our action-packed films will have you gripping your seat. Craving suspense? Hungry for adventure? Or just looking for that perfect escape? Whatever your mood, KTN is your ultimate destination for a movie experience.
Health is a a developed function. When will we always depend on the national government to agree to decide which counties to do a referral or to do a good health facility for them, instead of giving them the resources and let them do, because every county have different needs. For example, I wish even in Migori County we have a teaching and referral hospital. We don't know if we follow that trend. Is the national government to decide when do they support and build this? We never made high. So the more money that will be given to the counties also calls for accountability, the huge accountability for the county government. Let also the common people benefit or realize that the counties are getting money, they can see it on the ground by improving their lives through the service delivered, for example, health, which is in a mess. I'm happy like the issue of SHA is whether if it is well implemented can help us also to improve on the health of Kenyans. But we really need to be independent and let the counties beg their development or needs from the national government. That if you don't support the national government or the leadership, you may not get anything from the top, and yet they retain a lot of the budget.
Is that the case?
Yeah.
Is that the case right now, that we're looking at situations whereby if you don't maintain a healthy relationship politically, that counties which are safeguarded, funds for counties and devolution safeguarded in the constitution, then may not get the funds that they require because you're not buddy with the person at the top?
You know, the money we get from the national government in different ways. One is through equitable, which is a must. The money which is depend on the relation with the national is the grant or conditional grant, which is normally a huge amount of money. For example, if you want to do a huge project, you depend on this grant. That's why you'll find some other counties have referral hospitals, some have already done their headquarters because of this grant money, which is given at the discretion of the leadership, because it's not automatic thing that you must get. So,
you know, what you say is a bit worrying, and I'll tell you why. That the insinuation that even that conditional grant, be whatever as it may, is not based on merit. It is based on relationship. Is a very worrying statement to make.
Quite.
Because then we would say that we have a system still where there is an imperial leadership that can choose to allocate funds without the one, the concurrence of Parliament, which is the owner of budget, and two, at the discrimination of the feelings I have to this governor or to this person.
I'm not saying or telling you which part okay, but you can always see, for example, for the previous government for the last 10 years, if you can sample which counties maybe they were given a conditional grant to do either hospital or do account headquarters, and which region of the Kenya were never received even a grant to do even a single infrastructure. So that's why we are saying the Constitution gave Kenyans the devolution or the devolved units, which needs to be well funded, that doesn't depend on the goodwill or the good relationship or the friendship with the national government.
But you seem to be alluding to the fact that politics plays in, whereby it should be clear what should happen because it is ensconced in the Constitution. The Constitution says that we will have devolved units that will be headed by a governor and his deputy, and his or her deputy, and then thereafter certain things will happen, that they will come from the national government funds in order to make this devolution happen. It's not a suggestion, it is the law according to what the Constitution says. But, as Mark was saying, it seems as though what we are saying here is that until and unless you have a favorable relationship politically with the person who is at the top, at the executive position, that we may see a throttling of these funds coming to the counties. Is that an admission that we're seeing of things that actually happen?
There is no way we can separate politics from development. And historically, the Kenyan system will have been that we started from when it was used to be said, siasa mbaya, maisha mbaya. It is a historical thing. But however, as the leaders, we need to get out of that, fight it, and follow or implement our constitution and the rights that for Kenyans, which dictates that we have a right to development, a right to services, a right to water, and all that.
But
we go beyond that.
Is that happening? Do we see that there is a deliberate, intentional fight against this politics that comes into play all the time? Because what you've said is quite serious. That if funds are stopped from going to the devolved units, constitutionally aligned, because of a relationship you may or may not have with the executive, then that's an issue.
Yeah, that's why we are saying we don't want to depend on the goodwill of the national government. Let what the Constitution say be allocated to the counties. For example, do we get the 15% which the Constitution say?
Do you?
We don't. For example, right now, this financial year, we are getting the national government or the assembly is proposing 405 billion to the counties. That is not even a 10% of, in fact, it's 10% because the Kenyan budget is 4.2 trillion and you're giving 405 billion, which is almost the 10% of the total budget of the Kenya, of that. So the Constitution says give 15% to the counties. They can't. So how do you expect the grant, which is not in the Constitution, to be given equitably and released to the county to implement?
Yeah, but you see, the grant, the president of this republic does not have the ability to sit somewhere and say, you know what, I think I'm going to get another 2 billion and I'm going to give it to whichever county I want. That's not how the Constitution works, unless he's got some other budget that we don't know of. So that's one. But two is even the very premise of what you are discussing means that our constitutional order is in danger. Right? Because if any decision is made in this country by the discretion of an individual, not an institution, then we are in clear violation of the Constitution. Then it begs the question that these counties, as we speak of them, This is since 2013 to 2015, 2025 is 12 years past.
Into devolution, yeah.
Do we not need to sit down and have serious conversations, look ourselves in the eye, talk about funding models, talk about these grants, talk about the development of these counties, talk about the accountability that is needed, and actually look at what the Constitution says and begin to implement properly what it needs to be done, or have the difficult conversation of merging Migori, Homa Bay, and Kisumu into one county, because that makes more sense.
In matching counties or bringing them is not a solution. Is let the Kenyans or the institution not fight among themselves. If the institution of, for example, Parliament is an institution, it needs to implement its role as legislative and oversight. But when they come in now, take up the responsibility of implementers of the project, and let either the Senate, whoever wanted to cost the functions that have been transferred to the counties. You see, we are saying that we are giving a budget of, for example, Migori 10 billion. How was this 10 billion reached at? Did they accost that health is going to cost it? How much do we need, for example, to supply drugs to the whole hospital within Migori County? It was never costed for. It's a literal figure. How much do we need, for example, if we want to do a certain function? It is not accosted. Let, for example, the functions that have been transferred to the county government be accosted, and the actual figures be put on the table, say that for us to run health system effectively for the whole financial year, we need this amount of money. Can we give it to the counties? Instead of giving literally saying we are giving Migori 10 billion, is them to decide how much are they going to allocate in agriculture, or get in health, allocate in water, which most of the time is not enough.
But
yeah.
Go ahead.
You know, I find it difficult to reconcile a number of facts, and these are the realities. I mean, we live in Kenya, we know how our country runs. There is nothing like independent institutions, there is nothing like devolving a unit or the governments totally independent of national influence. Like you said, politics is always part and parcel of development. My question is, last year around this same month, the EACC targeted over 2 billion shillings that were allegedly siphoned from Migori County government. That is just one figure I'm just quoting. And there are a lot of things that were tabled, documents. Eventually, we know EACC sought to do an out of
plea
court
bargain,
settlement.
essentially.
Exactly. My question is, when you took over government, and this is representative of all government, county governments in this country, when you take over government, the first order of business, and it's something I've witnessed, is you're looking at what was the previous government doing, from the pending bills to all these monies and where these monies went. As you seek to get more allocation, do you do an internal audit to figure out what did my predecessor do with what was allocated to him, and how much money didn't go into, for example, the health infrastructure in the county, and so on and so forth? I say that because one day I sat with this governor, first order of business, I was present in that meeting, called some young fellow. So can you give me the books? I just want to go through the books. And in that one sitting, this young man tells the governor that we have 16 roads, and these are the pending bills, to the tune of 760 million. This is one county. Now, out of all those roads, only one was done. The rest do not even exist. Now, this governor told me, Dennis, I'm even afraid of what I'm going to tell my people, because hii ndio madeni tuko nayo.
Yes.
Na lazima tulipe yo madeni. And you talked about those spending bills. As we move on forward, because you're asking for more allocation, another government will come in asking for more allocation, another one asks for more allocation. Are we then saying this thing is not honestly functional, it's not working, we need to refigure and restructure county governments all over again, because they are just tools to keep pushing corruption forward?
You see that's where, for example, I can use for my case. When we get into the government, before starts talking about the bending bill, we did the bending bill evaluations, the assessment, which were the bending bill, which were really true net to be paid, which were no goes to some of them. We realized that's the truth. Some of the requests or the money that being requested, most of the projects were never done. So it is the responsibility of the current government or that government of that Ethiopia to ensure that there was value for money from the previous government. Because you will find that when we get into the government, we eliminated almost over 1 billion shillings, which were goals or not work done. But we still have people who are claiming they did those jobs. Because if you say you did a construction, for example, a dispensary, you need to go and sit at that point.
There should be a dispensary.
But if you go there, it's not there. And then there is somebody there claiming that he did the work because that person was given a document purporting that he did work, but it was not there. So it is the responsibility of that particular government or leaders to ensure they are paying or asking money from the control budget with the project which were implemented and well implemented, because some of the projects were hardly done. You see, if you are doing, for example, you are building a dispensary, there is no way you can go that a dispensary is done which has a room like this, and you are claiming to be paid 5 million shillings. There should be value for money. So as also leaders, we have to take up the responsibility of ensuring that the bending bill that we inherit from the previous government are worthwhile or worth paying. Some of them, for sure, they are not worth for paying.
But do you?
Yeah.
I know that there's the reality of responsibility, and I think that's where we're asking about
Yeah.
the connection.
Yeah.
Is that, do we actually see a process of ensuring that those pending bills, which you inadvertently take over in the next administration,
Yeah.
become your responsibility? Are you sure that they actually are bills for what was actually done? Because deputy governors obviously have come together in concert and said, you know what, let's also stand behind this push for increased allocation. At that point, you're together in concert, everybody asking for the same thing, and you're in agreement. But within that group of people are folks who have these big bills for which COB, Auditor General, everybody's asking, where did this money actually go? How can you have a concerted effort for more allocation of funds where in that same concert there are people who we know very well have not used their money properly? How can it be taken seriously?
You know, in Kenya, we have so many institutions that needs to take care of the public interest or the public confidence. For example, if the counties mismanaged the public funds, for example, we want that there is bending bill for this amount, but the work was not done. But these are Kenyans. Why can't the investigative institution take up the responsibility and ensure that people own their mistakes, on their corruption cases, on whatever they did to the public funds? Because without that being done, we will not have any confidence with the public, especially when it comes into the utilization of their resources. Because, for example, right now, genuinely, from my side where I sit, genuinely the counties need more funding for them to take care of the services or the needs of the people. But because of the misdeeds or misappropriation of resources by other leaders, makes the other counties or other Kenyans not get what they deserve because of their mistakes. Let those leaders take up their responsibilities and own up. Because we have institutions that they need to protect Kenyans. If these institutions don't protect Kenyans, who will protect them? Then we'll continue living on the same style. The 10 years we are talking about the bending bills, which cannot be accounted for. After 10 years, maybe again we talk about others. But also as leaders, also we have to own up and use the resources allocated to us genuinely and accountably.
You know, at the moment, there's a trust deficit. And if you're to ask and do a poll, a genuine poll, and ask people in different counties.